We kept Dele. We are talking of Dele Afolabi. We are talking of Mondi Isiade. These are the core of the DMO team. Now, going back to your question, my remark is that those coming behind, the younger ones, I mean, you just make up your mind that you want to contribute your best.
In saying one or two things about him, he gave total support for everything we were doing. A lot of us knew where we were, but there was a vision to get somewhere, and I'd like to acknowledge him and the House for sharing that vision with us and working as partners to get to where we were today. He was somebody who was interested in doing new things. So your own business was to sell him that opportunity. Once he understood it, you knew you had support to run with it. The only risk you had was that once you told him he wants the result now. So sometimes you wonder, oh, okay. So he was passionate and excited about new things, provided he could see the end and what value he was putting on the table. So let me say he gave the support. Once he understood it, he was behind you and we ran with it.
The outgoing Director General of the Debt Management Office, and of course the incoming, the unveiling, Patience Oniha, who is now effectively 1 week in office at the Debt Management Office. We have quite a lot to review the trading week, looking at this news box, the earnings in the macroeconomic circuit. Joining me as live now in the studio is Olalekan Olabode, who is the head of research at Vetiva Capital Management. Good evening, Olalekan. Thanks for coming through.
Good evening.
We appreciate a very interesting market week. Let's start from the equity side of things. Let's look at the news, as it were, and what news, piece of news in the headlines actually caught your attention in the trading week?
I think the most important thing for me during this trading week is that the market started the quarter lower. You recall that in Q2 2017, we actually recorded the strongest quarterly growth we've seen since about 2009. The market returned about 31%. And behind that strong performance we saw in Q2 was also huge volume and value being traded on the exchange. But one of those things that have happened this last week is that we've seen that those volume actually declined significantly from the average of about 6 billion that value traded that we recorded in the last 30 days. This week we actually did an average of about 2 billion, which is significantly lower than where we're coming from. So I think that is actually important, particularly as you know, as it dictates or as it predicts or as it gives indication on what we expect to happen in the future.
What do we expect to happen in the future? When I see volume, when folks see volumes contract significantly like this, what does that mean?
Yes, I think generally there's really no problem when the market is losing. So because you always expect that, you know, when people make money, they also want to take profit. So, but the biggest challenge I have is that when I see actually volume dwindling significantly, because it tells me that as people are selling, we really do not have other people on the other side to buy. So I would love to see the market lose, and I see huge volume because it's telling me that, okay, while people are willing to sell, there are a lot of people on the other side that are willing to buy.
Look, a lot of buying,
so
buying
exactly, interest. It just tells me so much about the interest.
This is a very negative trading week, just as we're looking at a lot of full-blown second quarter, half-year earnings, despite a few tickles we had last week. Flamils is a 7-up, and I think one or two others not really quite strong to move the market in any direction. So the new week is going to be basically the banking sector. So if you look at the volume this week, almost 1 billion, about 80-85% of the total volume. Does that tell me something where the next trading activities will come from? I
think the market has always been driven by the banking sector. So if you look at the volume of value traded, you always see that the banking sector accounts for the significant portion, just as you said. Top 5 gainers or top 5 volumes of value every time, you see about 3-4 banking sector names there. And it's not surprising because these stocks are very liquid and you actually see a lot of people really interested in the names. In terms of how earnings are going to shape up, We don't expect much earnings this week because the quarter just ended. Earnings will start rolling in towards the end of July. I think one of the things to point out is that the strong rally we saw in Q2, I always try to point out the fact that it started from better than expected Q1 results from a number of the companies. You look at the banking sector, particularly tier 1 names, they reported very strong numbers. You look at the industrial goods sector, some of the energy challenges that they had in 2016, we saw that improve significantly in Q1. You also look at the consumer goods sector. It's important to point out the fact that the macro environment is improving significantly. The PMI numbers actually show that. And also the FX environment is improving.
I don't want us to miss this news about the telecommunications. Let's make some phone calls. MTN or Airtel, who's listed on the market? Are you interested?
Yes, so we're significantly interested. That would be very good news for the market. We have been expecting this for a very long time. We've been following them closely. If you know that Dangote Cement accounts for a very significant portion of the market now, depending on when you look at it, accounts between 25 to 30% of the entire market. So whenever you see a movement in Dangote Cement, you actually see the market reacting, that the broad index actually reacts in that market. We would love to see, more strong companies.
You want to see MTN coming, maybe taking Dangote Cement a little bit, giving it a big fight.
Exactly.
That will be a very significant one, isn't it?
Very significant one.
Diversify my portfolio. So instead of just doing cement or consumer goods, I have telecommunications. That sounds good and good, isn't it?
Yeah, very
any significantly coming in next week? Any piece of news in just about 30 seconds?
The inflation figure is going to be coming out this week. It's important to note that inflation has been very sticky in recent times. We expected that 2017 inflation figure in 2017 was going to be significantly lower than we saw in 2016. It has not necessarily turned out that way. Food inflation has been a lot of pressure points. You also look at month-on-month inflation in the last few months. It's actually been rising. Last month we recorded about 1.88% month-on-month inflation, which is the highest since we saw in May 2016. It's a bit of concern for the market, and you would always see that the last few months, inflation, the numbers reported had actually been worse than a lot of market analysts.
I think we're going to cut it in there. Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that. Giving us a bit of a sneak preview into next week. Let's take a break. When we come back, we've got a lot to talk about the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers and what are the key issues thrown up at that meeting.